everybody, welcome back to my channel. Happy July. Today I have for you guys my June wrap up. Bit of a disappointing reading month for me, in that I'm disappointed in myself for not reading more, but you know, it happens. We all have our off months, and this month was definitely rocky. I have 7 books to share with you guys, and I feel like this is going to be a pretty lengthy video. So we're just going to dive right in with the first ebook I finished and or read in June, which was Shipped by Angie Hochman. This book, I said in my, did I mention it? In my June TBR, I totally did. I wanted a light romance. Was fairly disappointed in this book. You know, it didn't fulfill my needs. It was a romance, and it followed 2 co-workers as they both gunned for the same promotion, and in order to get this promotion, they had to go on a boat, a cruise, for like a week, I think it was, or 10 days. And you know, hate turned into attraction and feelings and etc, etc. And really, I would say this book focused more on like the cruise and this company itself. I don't know, there was like less romance than I expected and or wanted. And I didn't really like the main character. I found her pretty annoying, and I mentioned this in my mid-year book freakout tag, but some of the humor and dialogue felt really forced to me, in that the author tried to capture Gen Z / the younger generation's humor and our slang, but it felt really forced because the people who were saying it weren't in Gen Z, like, you know, they were millennials. So I don't know, it just felt really forced, some of the dialogue and the funny lines, and that really irked me. So all in all, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Not very memorable either, but you know, I read it, so there you go. The next book I have that I read in June was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I had been very, 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 very highly anticipating this book, reading it, and you know, it wasn't quite what I expected. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai in the 1920s, and it follows 2 warring families and gangs as they fight for control over Shanghai, and there are some fantastical elements, but not in the way I expected. I don't know what I thought this would be, but it wasn't what I thought. You know, for a debut, it was pretty good. The writing wasn't my favorite, so there's that. And it was more, I would say, historical fiction than anything else. And it was very, very plot heavy, which some people enjoy. I'm more of a character-based reader, and so I did feel a little disconnect between me and some of the characters, but I still really liked the romance, and I'm really excited for the next book, Our Violent Ends, which comes out, I'm pretty sure, in October. But yeah, you know, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a good fantasy, but it wasn't like my favorite thing I've ever read. So there's that one. Oh God. Okay, I've been dreading and or anticipating talking about this since I read it, and I went back and forth between whether or not I should film a whole video, because I do have some pretty hard, some pretty big opinions on it, and I decided that this video right here is going to serve as, this is the deepest I'm going to go into my opinions on this book, because frankly I don't want to add to the what I feel is unnecessary sensationalization of this book any more than I'm doing right now. So let's just like start talking about it. So the book is A Little Life by Hanya yanagi. I will link before I get into it. You know, I don't even know where to start. My heart's beating really fast. I'm really anxious. Again, I said this in my June TBR, and I'll say it again, especially now that I've read it. Please, for the love of dear God, if you're even thinking about reading this, please, 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 please do your research and read the trigger warnings. I will put them down top of the description. As someone who okay, this is kind of getting into it. So I've always appreciated trigger warnings for others, but I've never really felt like they helped me personally. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people feel that way, like we understand what they're for and we can appreciate what they do for others, but we're not too sure like if they could ever help us. And even the trigger warnings, I don't think adequately could prepare you for this book, because when I say I have never been triggered, I don't really like that word because I feel like there's a stigma around it, but there's not a better word. I have never been so upset reading anything in my entire life, and a lot of people say that, and I thought before I read it was an exaggeration, but it's really not an exaggeration. I've had a lot of things happen to me in my life that have made me cry. I'm a frequent crier, but like not even concerning entertainment, books, movies, TV, music, anything like that, but just personal stuff. I've cried a lot, and I swear to God, nothing has made me cry harder than this book. Nothing in my entire life has made me cry harder. And if you know me, that should be concerning in and of itself, because if you know me, you know how much I cry, and I cry very easily, and I cried a lot, but there were a few moments where I've never cried harder. And it really affected me mentally reading this book. I haven't even like given any description on it. It put me in a big reading slump, and frankly I did not want to read anything after I read this. I literally threw it down. It went airborne, and I was done. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So this book follows 4 men, Malcolm, Jude, JB, and Willem, as they go through life, starting kind of in their college years, and it spans into like their early 50s, late 50s, mid 50s. So it spans a good long time, and it follows these 4 men as they navigate their lives and their friendships and their love life? I don't know. And their backstories. And the first 3 parts of this, it's split into 7 or 8. I was really enjoying it. I had cried a lot, you know. I cry easily over little things. But I was really enjoying it. The writing is beautiful. The characterization is probably the best characterization I've ever seen out of any book. And I can't really say anything for the plot, because in my opinion there isn't a plot. The plot is you follow the characters. That's the plot. And like Jude is more mysterious than the others, so you're trying to find out what happened to him. But that's the gist of it. There's not like a big mystery. There's not anything we're working towards. You just follow these characters' lives. And I really enjoyed it until, like I said, the 4th part. there was something that happened, and if you've read it, you can probably guess. And I was taken back to a mental state that I never want to go back to. I relived it. It was like reliving trauma. And I, honest to God, did not know if I could finish it. And then it just got worse. I can't even like remember. I had like this whole speech prepared. Basically, to sum up my thoughts, I don't think anyone should read this. I really don't. And I know a lot of people, it's their favorite book and they love it. But I feel like even if you love it, you can agree with me and that you should never recommend this to anyone. It's very damaging, and I think it has the power to have a very negative influence on your life, even if you are or you think you are in a good mental state like I did and you thought you were prepared. I think it could do some very, very big damage to your emotional and mental well-being, and I don't think anyone should read it. I had told my friend as I was reading the second part, like, oh, you should read it. And then after I finished it, I begged her, please never read this. For me personally, I had been warned plenty about this book and I kind of ignored it and I assumed they were exaggerating. And I thought like, oh, I've read sad stuff, you know, I've lived through trauma of my own, like how bad can it be? And it was really bad. And I really read this just because I wanted to be in the know and I wanted to be able to be a part of the discussion around it, because I've seen it everywhere, the lighting's changing, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I don't think that knowledge or my ability to be a part of the discussion was worth what this book did to me. And I'm being 100% honest about that. I don't think it was worth it. As someone who read it and who actually really enjoyed a lot of it, there's nothing that I got from this book that I couldn't have gotten from other books in less harmful ways, if you know what I'm saying. That is to say, I did not rate this book. The writing and the characters were 5 out of 5, but I could not rate this for its content because there's no way to describe it, and there's no way to describe what it does to you. And I will also link under the trigger warnings to reading vlogs to two YouTubers who I hold in high esteem, and I watched both of these vlogs before I read it, so they're spoiler free. And I thought their reactions were a little dramatic, and when I rewatched them after reading this, I was like, I could pinpoint exactly what they were reading, and I reacted pretty much the same or worse than them. So, and their thoughts at the end of their videos pretty much sums, both of them together summed up my thoughts. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't really ever want to talk about this again. I might refer to crying heavily over it, but I don't think I'll ever reread this. I really don't. I'll hold on to it maybe in 20 years. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. I really, like, just thinking about it for days afterwards, I would just cry. I would think about it. The first thing I thought about when I woke up was this book. I had dreams about it. It gave me so much anxiety, reading it and afterwards. And I don't know, I just don't think it was worth it. Yeah, I really want to be done talking about it. So those are my thoughts. I'm sure I left stuff out. Again, please read the trigger warnings and please heed my advice and don't read this. I'm being dead serious. I don't want anyone to read this and experience the pain that I went through. So let's put it down. The next book, kind of taking a turn to lighter things, the next ebook was The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. This was what I wanted when I read Shipped. A light romance while I read The Life. It follows two people who were kind of childhood sweethearts until he stood her up at her senior prom. And she's hated him ever since, and then they reconnect, and again, like I mean, it's kind of obvious. They form a dating plan to convince the varying people in their lives that they're in a relationship for whatever reasons. And, you know, things happen. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really sweet, really juicy and steamy. And I really loved both of them individually, Daisy and Liam individually. And then I really grew to love them as a couple. So, yeah, there you go. The next, and oh, I dropped it. The next and last physical book I read this month. That in and of itself, I read 3 physical books this month. That is really, really low for me. But the next physical book I finished in June was Prom by Lori Haas Anderson. I love Lori Haas Anderson. This is by far not her greatest work. This is the only book that I had at the time by her that I hadn't read yet. And I knew it wouldn't make me cry. And I knew it was just going to be like fluff, basically. So I read this after a little life to try to get me out of a reading slump. And it kind of served its purpose. You know, it was just something to read to get me back into wanting to read. So it served its purpose. 3 out of 5 stars. It follows a senior in a high school who is roped into planning their prom when she's always been of the mindset that she hated prom and the idea of prom. So, you know, the back says, a Cinderella story, as only Lori Haas Anderson could tell it. And I feel like that sums it up. It was exactly what I expected it to be. It was just average. So I got a 3 out of 5. Okay. My hands made a noise. The last ebook I finished in June was Fable by Adrienne Young. This book, let me see. I finished it a couple of days ago. This book follows a girl, Fable, who has been left on this island known for its poverty and ruthlessness. And she was left there by her father, who was this famous or infamous merchant ship captain. And she is trying to make her way back to him through whatever means necessary to claim her inheritance. And yeah, it's very ship-based. As many books and TV shows and movies as I've read and watched with ships in them, I swear to God, I have the hardest time picturing and understanding ship terms. Like it's just, or boat terms. I use ship, I don't know. Anyway, but despite that, I thought this book was pretty good. It kept me interested, even when it was slow at some points. It took me a little while to get into it, but even then I was pretty interested in Fable and in her story because I really liked her as a protagonist. I do wish it had been written in 3rd person. I say that with every book that's not written in 3rd person, but it is what it is. The writing was pretty good. You know, I liked the main love interest a lot, and that cliffhanger, you know, it really got me. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty good. Wasn't my favorite, but it was pretty good for a fantasy. Just for a fantasy novel that I just like happened to stumble upon. Is it fantasy? I don't even know if it's fantasy. Who knows? Not me. So there's that. The last book I want to talk about, I just barely scraped in because I read it yesterday, which was the last day in June. If you go back a few months ago to my Attack on Titan manga binge, we've now resumed my interest in manga because I watched Jujutsu Kaisen. Kaisen on HBO, and I really liked that anime, so I went back and forth between buying all of the manga, and I finally settled on reading it online. So that's what I'm doing. I picked up where the show left off. So I read Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 8. I really liked this manga, actually. I'm really interested, and I might like it more than Attack on Titan. Yeah, that's my nerd spiel for the day. I'm still embarrassed to say that I'm reading manga. It's really good though. Like, the art is really good. And I all around like the storyline better than Attack on Titan, but I still gave it a 4 out of 5 because I don't know how to rate manga. I'm a newbie, so I don't know how to rate them, but I liked it pretty good, and I just want to keep gobbling it up until I catch up. So, and maybe one day I'll buy them. We'll see. That's a lot of money. Anyway, those were the 7 books I read in June. Very diverse list here. Did not at all get to all the books that I had on my June TBR, but hey, you know, it happens. I did kind of anticipate that reading A Little Life. I thought that I was going to be in a reading slump, and I was right. So there's that. But I think I'm out of it now. So July will hopefully be a better month. We'll see. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, I'm going to encourage anyone who is even considering just the tiniest bit reading A Little Life to look in the description at the 2 reading vlogs, and especially their trigger warnings. I'll see you guys next week on a lighter note. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, maybe, possibly. Peace out. Goodbye. In the video.